Good evening and welcome to Bronx Talk. Tonight's guest is the state senator from the 34th Senatorial District, which includes the Bronx neighborhoods of Allerton, Bedford Park, Belmont, Bronxdale, Fieldston, Norwood, Olinville, Pelham Parkway, Riverdale, Van Nest, and portions of Morris Park, Tremont, and Fordham. We don't have to tell you about what's up in Westchester, but we're dealing with the Bronx today. She is the chair of the Senate's Committee on Alcoholism and Substance Use Disorders Committee, and we're going to talk about the work of that committee. And we'll also talk about a range of district and city issues. So get right to it. Please join me in welcoming back to Bronx Talk, State Senator Nathalia Fernandez. Senator, nice to have you with us.
Good to have you, Gary.
Thank you for joining us. We were just talking briefly about the Alcohol and Substance Abuse Disorders Committee. A lot of people don't know about that committee. So let's start here. You provide funding for a range of services. Maybe you can review what you do in the committee, how it relates to the people of the Bronx, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely, but apologies, I just want to correct you really quick because you got the neighborhoods a little off.
Oh.
So I'm all on the east side now, so from the
so that
bottom
had
up.
changed.
Yeah, from the redistricting, the Senate district did change a little significantly.
Oh, thank you.
We're all on the east side now, so we have Castle Hill, Parkchester, Soundview, Classen Point, Throgsneck, Pelham Bay, City Island.
I know
a little
how
bit of Morris Park.
I
and
know
then
why. I'm
Westchester.
going to be honest to the folks. I know why and how that was wrong, because I went to a previous show that you were on and I took those,
That's
but
true.
I forgot that the things. All right. Anyway, that aside, let's talk about the committee.
Yes, the
Thank
committee.
you for catching that.
Of course. Well, the committee is a very special one, very unique, very important. It is the committee that oversees the budget, the overall budget for services in addictions care, addiction services, and mental health services, all related to alcoholism and substance use disorder. So I advocate for the budget every year in Albany to make sure that the numbers don't change. Also trying to push for investments into renovating a lot of facilities in the state. You know, we do have numerous facilities all over New York State, some in very rural areas, as we know here in our dense areas, but trying to make sure that they have the support that they need to continue the good work that they do in keeping people alive, keeping people educated on how to stay healthy, and guiding them to a path to stay with us.
Drug issues around the hub, for example, are significant. Congressman Torres called on the city to permanently dismantle the open-air drug market that's there. I used to have an office down there, and I saw it. It just was like, you can't miss it. How big are the problems? And then part two to that question is city versus rural. Now, I know you're a New York City state senator, but of course, in that committee, you've got to deal with the drug issues and abuse issues upstate. So let's just start with how big the problem is.
The problem is significant. It is a statewide issue. It doesn't choose who to affect and where. So while we see the problem here at the hub and in New York City, upstate New York, it's a lot more quiet. You know, people are suffering more alone, more in their homes, and are not seeking the help that a lot of the time is not even accessible. So it definitely is a problem upstate.
So, you know, I want to spend more time, of course, on the Bronx, but then what in that committee, what do you hear from your colleagues, and then what do you do to try and work that out? Here, you know, it's part of the culture, unfortunately, here. But what do you do upstate?
I have heard from my colleagues from Long Island and upstate telling me about certain facilities, programs that have been around for 30 years, how they need continual support, maybe to grow, maybe to expand, maybe to add a housing component to the services that they provide, because a lot of the time, most of the time, it's that lack of stability that could factor into someone's, using. So always I'm getting told, like, I have a spot here that it's been around, it's so nice, but the roof is crumbling. We need millions of dollars to fix that roof. We have a location that is brand new in this area, but there's no bus line to there. So I'm also on the transportation
what's the point?
committee. Yeah, so you know, adding every other, area of work to this problem, or connecting it, has been a big part of it, because looking at facilities that are out there at the border of communities, border of counties that don't have a bus line to there, that don't really have a main road. You know, that's another conversation I have to bring to our transportation talks. How can we connect people to the services that exist, and if not, bring the services to them with mobile units? You know, that's something that upstate is using.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. Obviously, the president has his own solution to, you know, destroying ships that come in, that he alleges come in. Where do the drugs come from? Are they manufactured even here? Or is the president onto something because they are coming from South America or Central America, et cetera?
They are coming from everywhere, you know, not just South America, overseas. But what is the more deadlier component is the mixing that's happening here. The drug supply on the streets is not what it was 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. Everything is mixed with fentanyl. So increasing the access to fentanyl test strips for whatever somebody may buy, whether it's heroin, whether it's cocaine, to know what it is that you're consuming. So one of my pieces of legislation was to codify a drug checking program that the Department of Health had started about 5 years ago. It's a machine that travels around the state, and there's various drop-in centers where people can come get their medical needs checked out, maybe get a meal, maybe refresh themselves, but also get healthy information as to how to better care for yourself, how to maybe go on start the path of recovery and detoxing. There has been, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. We're just talking about where the drugs come from.
Oh, yes, where they're coming from. So when people are coming in, the state has been providing an option so they can test what is their drug supply. And once they know what it is, if it's 50% fentanyl, 40% cocaine, 20% xylazine, you know to make a better decision for yourself. And sometimes people still choose to use the drug, but now let's prepare yourself with ways to make sure you stay alive, like Narcan, having that handy.
We can talk a lot of specifics about your legislation, but just stepping back, what do we really need to do to, curb this very serious problem and stop it? I mean, I always think of prevention, and that prevention may not be in the drug industry. It may be with other social services.
Well,
and things
prevention
like that.
comes in many different ways. Prevention can be education. So part of my advocacy is making sure that we have these educational factors in our everyday lives. We see the billboards that Oasis is funding showing you how much fentanyl can be dangerous, but what are we doing to prevent people from even trying it? What are we doing to prevent trauma or to care for people that have endured traumatic experiences, to stop them from even trying to self-medicate with the substance? Mm-hmm. So it's many different factors besides just stopping the drug from getting into our communities. We have to address many different concerns that people are living with.
You are very proud, I know, appropriately, of the legislation and I could go through all of them, but what's at the top of your list that you were happy that Governor Hochul signed into law? Yes,
well, this year I'm very proud of two pieces of legislation. One is to secure and protect money. We have the opioid settlement dollar.
Protect money?
Money, yes. The money that is going to programs that service harm reduction, recovery care, rehabilitative services. This is money that has been won by our Attorney General, who sued our pharmaceutical companies, and we have now opioid settlement dollars coming back into the state. But that is money that has been received by corporations, manufacturers, companies, not individuals.
I was just going to ask, the question for every funding, we have it on this program all the time, is where does the money really go? And is it real, if taxpayers are spending for it, are we really getting the benefit?
We are, and I've passed legislation that also got signed into law to create more transparency. There's a dashboard on the Oasis website, so you can see where these dollars are going. But there was a discrepancy before in that only a portion of that money was getting reported and posted, and 60% of it going to counties was not getting reported. So there was a lack of accountability to know that that money was really going to services that help people and save people's lives. So that's no longer going to be an issue because it got signed into law.
There you go.
Additionally, going back to the other bill right before, we were getting millions of dollars from opioid manufacturers, distributors, companies, but the Sackler family is a big name in this conversation.
Sackler?
Sackler.
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 Okay.
They are manufacturers. I believe they invented a long time ago, because they've been in this business a long time, the first form of Tylenol, and they continue to run their billion-dollar corporation as an individual. So the loophole in the law that it was that the dollars received from them are going to the general fund and not to the opioid settlement fund. So now I close that loophole, and every dollar that is coming from an individual in the company, manufacturer, business, distributor, is going to the opioid settlement fund to be used for those services.
What role, and I mean, when I hear about this, when I read about it, in preparation for this show, the pharmaceutical companies, there's a role in there that they have. Somebody had once told me that they had gotten anesthesia in a legitimate hospital, and somebody said to him, "Do you know if it was fentanyl?" Is one of the chemicals that they use to help put you out. That seemed incredible to me,
Well,
given
yes,
the dangers. And what's going on in the street, I just couldn't
Well, there
believe
is forms
when
of
I heard
fentanyl that is safe to use by doctors for that purpose. But what's on the street now is synthetic fentanyl, and again, mixed with everything else that, more times than none, ends up to be deadly.
What do you have on your docket for next year? I realize we're not even at election day yet, but what are you thinking about would be a next step for
Well,
you
within
for
this
next year?
committee, I really want to continue my support and services and focus for recovery care. One of my wins as the chair was securing $11 million in the state budget for recovery services, meaning vocational training, job training, to help people stay on the path of recovery and never revert back to using substances. And I personally believe that having a job is one of the best ways to refocus your life and give you new purpose. And I have a bill called the Recovery Ready Workplace Act, which is a certification that businesses can sign into, but to break stigma from a possible employee to a employer, that good employees are right here and they deserve these jobs, and we need to give a chance to these jobs and support them in their recovery care as they're working these jobs.
I'm happy to hear you say that, because implied in my question about prevention was that there's a whole social development aspect of this, and that's what I want to hear, that we're giving kids. I mean, it's one of my personal advocacies for many years on this show. Give kids things to do so that they have occupied and not get into gangs, and also, of course, ultimately find them education and jobs. That's what
a job can do wonders for a person.
This is actually a nice segue. The Just Home project is a controversial project, as you well know. The council voted 36-9 to approve it, which would create 83 units of supportive housing for formerly incarcerated New Yorkers who have complex medical needs. I'm going to make a guess that some of those needs are recovering from alcohol and drug abuse. If the proposal does go through, what do you think? You think this is a good idea? The community complained about the location. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I shared those concerns about the location. I understand the mission. As an elected, that's one part of our job. Especially when you're new, the administration, the city, the state informs you about the current, problems that we have. And that is a problem that exists, that individuals have been choosing to stay in Rikers because they don't have the means and support to come out and live a life. So I understand
They're choosing to stay in Rikers? I can't imagine it.
Well, when you don't have a home, when you need the medical care, sometimes
that's the point.
That's the point.
Right.
So what I am planning to do is to hold them accountable. If you're going to be neighbors in my district, in my neighborhood, I want to make sure that no harm can be done, that there is as little problems as possible, and that we are all able to just live as neighbors and without any issues.
Are you concerned? I mean, that protections, whether they be security or other protections or things, to make sure that the patients are cared for
There's
properly?
always reason for a little concern, but we have to think a little bigger in that these concerns aren't always true. So let's have the guardrails up with security, with cameras, with people of contact within the facility and the program provider to have them at hand in case anything should happen. The quicker that we can respond to a situation happening, the quicker we can figure out a plan to prevent it from happening again.
And that social support is very important because, if they have activities, same kind of thing that we talk about for the general public, if they have activities and things to keep them gainfully, quote unquote, employed, gainfully occupied, then maybe it'll work out. You feel that Jacoby is cooperating enough?
I think they have. They've been
They
very
understand, right?
Yes, they do understand
and the same thing
concerns.
with the Fortune Society. And all.
Yes, and Fortune Society, I've known and seen them to operate in other facilities throughout the city and the state, and they have done good work. They are very much attentive to their responsibility. So I do have faith that this can be okay, but I'm also going to be vigilant, and if something goes wrong, they'll be hearing from me first.
Let's talk about another very large project, no surprise to you, the Bally's project. The application was, they have an application for a casino license at Ferry Point Park. The Gaming Commission will make the ultimate decision whether to award Bally's one of the 3 available licenses. The council voted to pass it, and the Citizens Action Committee voted to pass it and approve the plan. It'll mean annual contributions to the Bronx. It looks like about $27 million a year, which Bally's says the Bronx people will be able to designate where the money goes toward. Good deal, bad deal? You like the idea? You hope they get the gaming contract and casino, or you don't?
I do believe that the community benefits package that was created and agreed upon is a good deal. It is a lot of money coming back to the immediate neighborhood and the Bronx at large. And this is an investment that we've never had before. We never had this opportunity before. So in addition to the monetary support to come to BronxNet, to come to our community, it's a great opportunity for more jobs. You know, just talking about how jobs can be so helpful to an individual, to a family, to someone's life. And that's a definite in this project. We are definitely going to see more jobs in the community, a boost in our economy. It is good for the borough to see this investment.
Concerns about the taking of parkland for it, because that's a big thing in the state.
I want to clarify
alienate the
that
park.
because I am a big avid park supporter. I very much care about our parklands and support everything to protect them. And on paper, yes, it looks like we're taking public parkland, but if you've seen the proposals, if you've gone to the golf course, it's not a parkland. It's not a park that you picnic on. It's a golf course that was once a landfill, so it's never been anything that the community could recreate on. And the proposal that it is not even touching the golf course. The golf course will stay as is. It's literally just those couple of acres where the parking lot is and the 2 building structures, and that's where they'll be building. And I was very keen on making sure that there is no spillage, slippage into anything else except what they needed for these building structures.
And traffic and parking. Now, I've taken the ferry from Throgs Neck a number of times. It's a walk. Do it, please. It's a walk through the park. You think none of that will be affected by this project, affected negatively?
If anything, more traffic through the ferries, and maybe possibility years down later, another ferry coming straight to the casino. Another ferry stop, yeah. Traffic is always a concern, and it remains a concern for as long as I've been around. But there are proposals there is plans in this proposal to amend the highways to create a little more of a flow in the cars coming. There is traffic on the bridge as always, but even with the other casinos to come, the traffic is still going to pass through us, so we can't get away from it.
I hadn't thought about asking you this beforehand, but since you mentioned the ferry, there's all this talk about having a ferry stop at City Island. Good idea? Not a good idea?
Good idea.
You like the idea?
Yeah, I do. City Island is a gem of the Bronx, and if anything...
You're preaching to the choir here, but that's okay.
Yeah, it could certainly help build, the economy there. We have a lot of empty storefronts on City Island, and, a lot of...
I think there were 14 at the last count, which is
It's too many, and, City Island survives on its own a lot of the time, so the stores aids to what the community needs. But if we want to fill these storefronts, if we want to see, the businesses boom there, we have to bring more people to be able to visit.
I'm going to tell you something that I've talked to many, I have many friends on City Island. I like the idea of the ferry, but once you get off the ferry, there's got to be some way to get people, like, let's say you want to go to the Lobster House on the other end of the island. I mean, how do you get there? This is Gary's advocacy now. I'm stealing her time. I think we need a trolley that goes from Orchard Beach. You could park people there. It'll eliminate all the traffic on Mother's Day and all those days. And it could be self-funded because you could pay for it with advertising all over the trolley. And then you can go all the way to where the ferry is.
That's a good idea. They even
like
have
the
smaller
idea?
trolleys.
So when you bring it up, say, I heard it on BronxTalk.
I'll even bring up the
BronxNet.
small ones that are electrically run. In New Rochelle, we have them there.
Yes.
So they're like maybe 10-person seaters, and they can zip up and down the
there was one on
island.
City Island at some point. It could be in my dream as opposed to my memory. Anyway, let's talk about something else very significant, the shutdown, the federal shutdown. How will it affect New Yorkers? There are 42 million Americans who rely on SNAP. The program is about, I think by the time this airs, it will have expired, the program. What do we do? What do you think you can do, the legislature can do to help people who are really going to be hurt by this?
Well, I commend my federal partners in my party that are standing firm about what we need and pushing for that conversation to happen. Let's figure out something that we can all support, not just what you support. And it's terrible that this government is supporting cutting all these services, literally trying to starve families in this country and in this state. And in New York, there's not much we could do, but there is some. And I believe it was yesterday that the governor announced $40 million to help with food services. So we have Nourish New York, which is a program to connect upstate farmers to downstate pantries. We've been securing funding for that, especially this coming year, assuming that this might happen, but the governor just put $40 million more. So I still have to read my notes as to how that money will come back to the Bronx. But that is a good sign that we're able to help ourselves a little bit. But this is only one topic. It's not going to be for everything that gets cut. And especially when it comes to healthcare services, hospitals are even afraid of having to shut down in a couple months with how this is looking. So a lot needs to be done, and only so much could be done in the state. But we're taking notes.
It's interesting because as much as you'd like to say, hey, we've got the solution for it, it just seems undeniable there's going to be some sort of pain for.
There definitely will be.
And it's unfortunate. Let's stay with the federal government a little bit. The president has targeted Democratic-led cities by explaining that he's going to put in military intervention, which he's done in Portland and in Los Angeles and elsewhere. If he looks at New York, and he certainly has suggested he's ready to do that, what happens? What would you recommend, whoever the new mayor is, what would you recommend that mayor do, and what would you recommend that the city do if and when that happens?
Push back. We don't need military in our city. We don't need military in our community. We've seen already many instances on the news, online, as to how ICE is brutalizing our neighborhoods, coming in like the bullies, the military bullies that they are, and grabbing people and questioning after. It is atrocious what's happening. And for Trump to say that he needs to bring the military because the fear of maybe a Mayor Mondami is ridiculous. And that is complete fear-mongering that is really irresponsible of the leader of the free nation to put out there that if you elect this guy, I'm going to do the worst on you. So why should we be afraid of that guy when we should be afraid of you?
It's you say push back. I'm not sure how that gets done because we
push back with our platforms. That's one way. Our Attorney General has been vigilant in using her power of the judiciary to sue anytime he has tried things. So I anticipate that there are ways that we can push back in legal ways. But maybe there's going to be a time that maybe we can't. And I don't want to assume that that's going to happen, but we've seen lights at the end of the tunnel. Legislation being passed in other states that maybe we can look at. Our National Guard is our National Guard. Maybe there's a a position
Who
that they can
knows?
take.
Yeah,
Who
well,
knows?
this is
But
what Governor Newsom is doing in California. You know, the crime. Let's just talk about crime for a moment. Crime numbers fluctuate. We've had some crimes go up, some crimes go down. I know in the 45th, crime has gone up a little bit over the last year. How do you view crime now? It is an issue in the campaign. Cuomo and Sliwa favor more cops. Mamdani wants New York to follow the model of other cities, send mental health teams, take the burden off NYPD to deal with people with mental concerns. How do you see the picture of crime in your district and how to deal with it?
Well, I love the fact that overall in the city crime has gone down. In the 45th, we've always been short on cops. So that's something that I've said directly to the candidates that should you be the mayor, I would love to see more officers in the 45th.
More police officers.
Yes, and that is to address a lot of the quality of life issues that may not be extreme, criminal situations.
Name one.
Name one. The tires in my car are gone.
Oh, are they really?
Well, not mine. No, not mine.
Okay, but that's what people
Yes.
say. Yeah.
So we know that our precinct is spread very thin, and for a lot of things, they are telling us that I can't get to you yet because I got to handle this bigger problem. And I don't know the severity of that bigger problem, but we do need some extra officers to help cover the ground because it's a big district. It's the biggest geographical precinct that we have. But I say that to say, yeah, it is. It's the biggest geographical precinct for the Bronx, the 45th.
Wow.
But I am open to his other ideas with the mental health teams. I do think that's something that we should consider in figuring out how to address these situations, because it is a lot on officers.
We're just about out of time. Anything on the inside that everybody should know about what's coming up next year when you open the doors on January 1st? What's the first thing you're going to work on?
The first thing, well, again, I want to protect our budget with OASIS and harm reduction and drug addiction services. I have a bill to add a small little tax to create a funding stream for alcoholism services. The conversation in my committee has been very much focused on opioids and cannabis with rightfully so intentions, but we're forgetting about alcoholism, and that is still the number one substance that drives people to addiction.
What an interesting, that opens up a whole line of questioning, but we're out of time.
For the next show.
That's right. Senator Fernandez, thank you so much for joining us. We both noted that this is the first time we've done one-on-one. You've been here 100 times, but now but we'll have you back, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Gary.
And that concludes tonight's program. We want to thank our producer. He pitched in. It's Ray Pagnucco, and our BronxNet production and editing crew, and of course you too, people of the Bronx. We love you, and that's why we're here. Next week we'll see you. Our guest will be the new president of Bronx Community College.